Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Girls, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and this is a short book review of Wandering Stars. But this particular book is a prequel and a sequel to There. So I'm going to talk about There very briefly, really quick. So I'm handling this a little bit different today than all my other short book reviews. Might be a little bit longer. And let's see if I don't wake up my cat, who's like right next to me. All right, so this came out, I believe, in 2018. There. So this book, I don't know where to start. This is a multi-character, a POV type story. It takes place in like present day. There's going to be a big Oakland powwow in California, and there's like a photojournalist that is putting together a documentary. So they are actively interviewing different people that are going to be at this powwow. And so this is Indigenous representation, focusing on people that live off the reservation in cityscapes. And this is very much following people that are different ages, so different generations. Some of these people have participated, were part of the 1969 to 1971 occupation of Alcatraz. Then there's also the younger generation that are grappling with connecting to their identity after so much forced assimilation and just colonization has taken place. So we're seeing the different ways people work to connect with their cultural experiences. On top of that, they're having to deal with all that they're against in terms of like how their identities are, I guess you could say, represented. So through iconography, like on coins, usually it's about an indigenous person existing like in a historical context. So in other words, dead people, rather than people being alive and well as they exist every day. There's an exploration of addiction, abuse, and suicide. And throughout us getting to know the characters, we know that something's like looming on the horizon, and the author does a really good job of sprinkling in the breadcrumbs to this event. Mixed up in this is because there's a talk about like representation and how people are perceived versus how they actually authentically exist. There is like peppered in conversations about film and music. Again, back to like iconography as well. And I have always really loved this book. So by the time that the follow-up book, Wandering Stars, came around, I picked it up because this is a hardback. I'm a cheapskate. I don't usually go and buy a hardback, but I bought it because I wanted to read it. And so here we are. Now, this is what's considered, it's a follow-up, but it's like a prequel and a sequel to There. And so I am thankful because the way that There ends, it almost feels slightly open-ended. Like all I want to do is know what happens to certain of these characters, and we don't really know. And so I'm very thankful that the author wrote Wandering Stars. So as far as the prequel portion of this, we travel back to Colorado, 1864. There's a character named Star, and he's a survivor of the Sand Creek Massacre. He's basically forced to assimilate onto as a Christian evangelical. Sorry, I'm not religious. I'm having a hard time saying that. Evangelical. And when you're reading that portion, I looked up some of these characters, and there are real life historical figures that are in this fictional story. Sorry. So it's like a historical fiction portion, basically. And so there's the Carlisle Indian School, which is basically residential school. So we get a sense that people are really forced to forced to assimilate, and the negative repercussions for themselves on this. And then so then we follow the next generations. That would be Jude Star is he ends up getting the name Jude. Jude Star's son, Charles, and they meet Opal Viola. And what do we know about actually both these characters is that in the present day, following their characters, they are descendants of who we are following historically. And so we see that not only are we traveling to the present day family, but we're seeing the constant effects of colonization, forced assimilation, and those consequences are largely addiction. I appreciated how the author handled the conversations about addiction. There's so much stigma around that. And I guess I feel like on top of that, there's an unfortunate stereotype when it comes to Indigenous people, as if addiction, I guess a stereotype regarding addiction, but what the author heavily focuses on, well, if someone's ends up being addicted to substances, what's at the root of that? What's really going on? And it's really struggle to survive, to get through this world that is constantly telling people that they shouldn't exist. And when they try to change themselves, that's still not good enough. And we're seeing this happen over and over again through generations. And so it's really like heavy throughout. Once again, I love all these characters. I noticed there's more of a heavy conversation as well, or more like an amplified conversation around also like music, as much as there was in there, but it felt like it felt more present, if that makes any sense. So there is that constant navigation of being oneself, accepting oneself, versus like what the outside world is trying to like force on them. And so I would say something about this that I don't know if it's going to be a critique for anyone else. It's not going to be a critique for me, but just for the sake of knowing my kind of like literary palette, I love books that are more character focused rather than plot focused. So this book does feel a little bit like plotless, but I was fine with that because it was in service of character. So if you are someone that might pick up this book and think, where's the plot, and that's not your vibe, then you might not like this. But I didn't go into reading these books looking for that, because again, I like books that lack plot in service of character, if that's done effectively, you know. And I'm trying to think about what else I want to talk about. I don't know. I loved it once again. I wish I had a little more to say, but really just hit me in the feels. I usually start off with a quote. I didn't this time just because I had to preface this with there. So I'm going to read from page 83, and it says, "It's worse when they know what they want and they're hungry for it. White men in this country, they come to take everything, even themselves. They have taken so much, they have lost themselves in the taking. And what will be left of such a nation once they are done? My mother once said, a nation is not conquered until the heart of its women are on the ground. Then it is finished, no matter how brave its warriors or how strong their weapons. I wonder about the women's hearts on the ground, and I wonder about American women, white women. Where were their hearts? I take solace in knowing my heart is still in my chest, that yours is in there too, beating like a drum, waiting for its dancer, keeping me on my feet, ready for a rhythm, ready for what's next, because what's next is always coming." And I just wanted to add on to this, because there was another very short quote I wanted to repeat that felt like, you know what, I think anyone could relate to this. Let's see if I marked it. If I didn't mark it, I'm gonna have to let it go. But it had me kind of like giggling to myself. Did I mark it? Maybe I didn't. No, I didn't mark it, but I'll read you something else. Oh, I'm so annoyed. I'll read you a portion about recovery. Actually, there's like 2 sections. Being in recovery seemed to fulfill that in some way. Native people were in recovery everywhere, had found out that they couldn't not take substance use to its abuse point, had found out that some wounds were bottomless holes, asking to be filled every day. Running alone did what I needed done to keep sober. So that's why I kept doing every day. So it's about like keeping your focus and trying to stay out of trouble from oneself and staying in recovery. Oh yeah, that's just funny. Sorry, there's something else that just like cracked me up, and I read it and felt like I want to kick myself because I didn't mark it. I thought I did. Basically, it was like one of the characters kind of looking at her boys and saying, could we not could life stop lifing for a minute? That would be really nice if like things could just like calm down, because something's always happening. But it's just wanting someone to be like beyond having to survive all the time and just be able to live without all these things coming at them. I don't know if I'm doing a good job at reviewing this book, but I did love it. 5 out of 5 stars. What would I say? Both these books juggle quite a few characters, and I don't mind it. I never felt lost in it. I actually read this pretty quickly, and once again, I'm a slow reader, so the fact that I did manage to squeeze it in is kind of that's a good sign. All right, everyone, if you're able to get through this, if it made any sense, thank you so much. Feel free to press the subscribe button, press the like, and please let me know in the comments if there's anything else in particular that stood out to you about this particular book. And as I'm saying that, I just now remembered what the other thing I wanted to say was, when it comes to the way that Tommy Orange writes, there's like such a beautiful melody to it, and that's what I was trying to say about his conversation about music. This author just seems someone that he must really love music, and I could feel like I could see those influences right through how the sentence flows really beautifully. Anyways, all right, so that's my last thing. All right, if you have anything to add, go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'll see you in the chat.